Let's talk about fields in Salesforce. There are several different actions that you can take with fields. You can create a custom field to capture new information. Let's say that my organization is a computer manufacturer and wants to track the favorite brand of each new lead generated by the company. There isn't a standard field to capture that information, so I could create a custom field. We later decide that calling the field favorite brand, we then want to change to preferred brand. I can edit the field properties to make that change. You can also delete custom fields. For instance, if we decide that there's no value in capturing the field or the data that we've captured to date, then we could delete that preferred brand field. Deletion is not permanent. However, after 15 days, a deleted field is automatically permanently erased and its data is gone for good. Within that 15-day window, a field can be undeleted and its contents can be recovered. Standard fields are included with Salesforce, and custom fields are created by any other means. You cannot delete standard fields, and your ability to edit them is limited. Standard fields also include specialized field types such as name and address, which can be emulated but not replicated using custom fields. An administrator has full control to add, delete, and change custom fields, excluding those that are installed by managed packages from the App Exchange, which you have less ability to customize. We'll talk about that more later. When you create a custom field, there are a number of different field types available. Most of them are more or less self-explanatory, but we are going to explore several of these in detail. We'll discuss the 4 highlighted in red in another video. Case number is an example of an auto number. A unique sequence number is generated for each record. For instance, the first case created may be assigned case number 1, the second case 2, and so on. Auto number fields are read-only. For instance, an administrator cannot change the case number from 1007 to 1008. The administrator can control the formatting of how the increment number is displayed by adding leading zeros and date elements as shown. So let's take a look at a few examples. In this first example, a 0 enclosed with curly brackets will display the sequence number with no additional formatting. The number of zeros present will indicate the minimum length of digits displayed by the sequence number. So in the second example, the first 2 numbers are padded with zeros while the last 2 numbers are not, as they have not met the minimum specified length. Alphanumeric characters can be added as shown in example number 3. And examples 4 and 5 show date elements included. All date elements will reference the record's creation date. Most fields are validated to their corresponding data type. For instance, currency, number, and percent are numeric fields. This means that you cannot enter characters no matter what. Most other fields are validated as you would expect as well. For instance, you cannot enter an improperly formatted email into an email field. Some fields are not validated, however. We'll explore these exceptions starting with phone. No validation means that a user can enter any value they choose into a phone field. The formatting is applied as shown when the following conditions are met. The number needs to be typed in through the user interface, so if you're loading data through the API, formatting will not be applied. The user's locale needs to be either United States or Canada, and the phone number entered into the phone field needs to be either a 10-digit number or an 11-digit number that starts with a 1, so a typical US phone number. For all other locales and international phone numbers, no formatting is applied. If you want to ensure properly formatted phone numbers or valid numbers are entered, use validation rules, which we will discuss later. Pick list is a drop-down menu that allows a user to select a single value. Multi-select pick lists are similar but allow users to select multiple values. Note that multi-select pick lists have limitations when it comes to field history tracking, reporting, and formulas. Both field types are validated in the user interface, meaning that a user can only select the values shown in the list. However, data loaded through the API is not validated, so an administrator loading data can push any values in from behind the curtains. Pick list values can be displayed dynamically based on the values within other fields. For instance, when I select Make Subaru, then only models that Subaru manufactures should be displayed. When I select a model, only years that that model was sold should be displayed. So here's the way that it works. A controlling field influences the values displayed within a dependent field. For instance, make is a controlling field as it determines the values displayed for model. Model is both a dependent and a controlling field as it also determines which values are displayed for year, and year is a dependent field. There are some limitations around which fields can be controlling and which can be dependent. The key ones to note are that standard pick list fields can only be controlling, they cannot be dependent, and multi-pick lists can only be dependent and cannot be controlling. Let's run through a quick comparison of the different types of text fields. Text and text areas are similar except that text areas display a larger editing area. Long text areas give you a lot more characters. The description field on many standard objects is a long text area. Rich text is similar to long text but gives you the ability to add formatting and images. And encrypted text allows you to enter a value when creating or editing a record, but then have that value masked once saved. Creation of this field type may require feature activation. Now we're going to explore the various field properties that an administrator can define. So first off, the field label determines how the field will appear on the screen to users. For instance, if you want your field to be called preferred brand, then that's exactly what should be entered as the field label. The field name is what developers and the API reference. Field names must be unique per object and cannot contain special characters or spaces, and _C is automatically appended to custom field names. The field description is used for documentation purposes and is not exposed to users. At a minimum, when creating a field, try to enter a description as to why the field was added and its intended usage. This way, if another administrator or consultant works in your org, they won't be flying blind. When help text is provided for a field, a question mark will appear next to the field. When a user hovers over the question mark, they will see the content of the help text. This is a great way to provide relevant information to users in a non-intrusive fashion. It's best to keep help text brief and use it strategically. Users are likely to get more out of a few well-placed help text than if help text is present for every field. Default value will pre-populate a value for the field when a user creates a new record. You can set a static value or a dynamic value using the formula editor. However, only global variables such as user or profile are accessible. For instance, I could create a date field called first met on the contact and have the value default to today. What I couldn't do is have that default field value set to the account's creation date as the relationship hasn't been established between the two records until the record is saved. If you make a field required, it will be required no matter what. A value must be entered for all records. This includes API usage and existing records, and any required fields will always be listed on the page layout. When a field is unique, that means that only one record in the object can contain a specific value when a value is present. For instance, when I try to create a second record with the same value as the value in another record, I will get an error that references the original record. An external ID allows you to upsert data into Salesforce using an external primary key. Let's say that I'm importing orders from an external system into Salesforce as opportunities. I have the account ID from the order system, but not the Salesforce ID, along with the rest of the opportunity details. In Salesforce, I have the Salesforce account ID, along with the account ID of the external order system. By default, when you load data into Salesforce, it will expect that you reference its primary key, the Salesforce ID. But in this case, you want to reference the primary key of an external system. You can upsert data into Salesforce using an external foreign key so long as that field is marked as an external ID. We'll discuss this further when we talk about data management. You can have a total of 3 unique or external ID fields per object. If a field is both a unique and an external ID, it only counts once against this limit. For text fields, length defines the maximum number of characters that can be stored in a field. If the length is 255, then you can't enter 256 characters in a field. Pretty straightforward. Numeric fields, length and decimal places define the maximum number of digits before and after the decimal point. For instance, the maximum value for a currency field with 3 length and 2 decimal places is $999.99. Assuming, of course, that the currency is US dollars. The maximum number of total digits that can be captured on a numeric field is 18 digits.